let's get into. I think it's our favorite segment that we do now, which is our draft, the sports hour draft. The topic of this week's draft: the best players to never make a Pro Bowl. We're gonna cut deep. We're gonna get some deep names here that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. That's kind of one of our favorite things to do. Is granted, I mean that's evident by the segments that we just played, where we like to get some deep cut names. And we're going to do that right now in this draft with the best players to never make a Pro Bowl.
Yes. And we love the draft segment going back and forth and sort of competing in this. But this topic, I think, is really fun because you may be surprised by some of these names. You may have thought they even made a Pro Bowl before. But these are the best NFL players to have never made a Pro Bowl. So very excited for this. Mitch is going to have the first pick in this draft, according to our order. And then we'll do a little snake draft back and forth as we normally do. So Mitch, number 1 overall, best NFL players to never make a Pro Bowl. And you're on the clock. What are you thinking?
Oh, man, there are so many players that I think there's I'm going to go with my number one, my 101, which I think is a tragedy that he didn't make a Pro Bowl, especially in probably the back half of his career, at least one of them. I'm going to go with Julian Edelman.
Okay.
Julian Edelman, never making a Pro Bowl. 3-time Super Bowl champ. He was a Super Bowl MVP. This guy he was the next Wes Welker in that offense. And, maybe he was a product of constantly being in that Super Bowl predicament every year, but for him to never make a Pro Bowl he was a target monster. He was a reception monster for so many years that I couldn't believe that he had made one. I was almost positive that he had at least made one, but
yeah, I like that. I think that's a good first pick. And I mean, you look at his career, he had 3 seasons with over 1,000 yards receiving. And in those seasons, he had 98, 100, and 105 receptions, respectively. So those are pretty good numbers. He didn't have huge touchdown numbers, but yeah, you figure 100 receptions and 1,100 yards would be good enough to get you in one time when Tom Brady's throwing you the ball. But not the case for Julian Edelman. 3 Super Bowl championships, a Super Bowl MVP, but no Pro Bowl.
Right.
Hey, a good 101. It's a good 101. Do you feel good about that?
Not really.
No,
not really. I think there's another guy I could have taken here, but Julian Edelman, with just the success that he had, it's hard to really deny him as one of those guys. So,
okay, fair enough. Mitch goes Julian Edelman 101. I'm up with my pick, my 101 for the best players to never make a Pro Bowl, and I'll go back to back here, but my first pick is going to be Mr. Delaware himself, Joe Flacco. I'm taking Joe Flacco at the 101 because Joe Flacco never made a Pro Bowl. I was a little surprised to see that. I didn't even think of him at all as a guy who didn't make a Pro Bowl. Not because he was particularly special in one season or another. And I think that's kind of a hard thing when you look at his numbers. There are certain years, I think 2014 specifically stands out. They won 10 games. He had a 27-12 touchdown interception ratio. That was probably his best season. And you're man, no love for Joe Flacco there, but he was just always on the outside looking in, right? And in the AFC, when you have Brady and Manning and all that talent that was always there, he's just kind of left out, even if he had a good season. But Joe Flacco deserves some love. He was a very good NFL quarterback, and he won a Super Bowl, so we can't take that away from him. But never made a Pro Bowl. He'll be my 101, though.
That one's just as shocking to me as Julian Edelman is, I think.
Yeah.
Just as success that he had and never got there. So
right, 100%. All right, Mitch, I am up with my next pick, and I'm going to stick in the quarterback realm. And I'm going to go with the guy we talk about a lot on this podcast because he's great. We love him. Ryan Fitzpatrick is my next pick here. for the best players to never make a Pro Bowl. And listen, Fitzmagic, he played everywhere. He was like the perennial backup bridge quarterback. And he didn't have like crazy good success, but he had some seasons where, 31 touchdowns and 15 picks with New York in 2015. He had some seasons where I think he really showed out. And for a guy who was so good his whole career, was he a Pro Bowl player? Maybe not, but he's got to be like the best of the rest, in my opinion. And a true journeyman who's just stood the test of time and just continued to have success. I love it. So I'm gonna go Fitzmagic.
Oh yeah, that's a great pick. Damn it, that's a great pick. Okay, so I'm going back to back here. My 2 and my 3. I'm gonna go with Marques Colston.
Oh yeah,
Marques Colston. I think it was of 80,000 yards that Drew Brees threw in his career, 10,000 of them went to Marques Colston. He accounts for 1/8 of Drew Brees' career yards. Never made a Pro Bowl. Tragedy. He averaged around 70 catches, 975 yards, 7 touchdowns per season. Never made a Pro Bowl. And for a guy that was probably the most underrated wide receiver one in any offense at any time, Marques Colston is absolutely deserving of being a pick here in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, Colston has almost 10,000 career receiving yards in his NFL career. I mean, that's like almost top 50. That's incredibly impressive. You look at most of the guys around him, I mean, besides even being, Hall of Fame players potentially around him, but Pro Bowlers nonetheless. And he sort of stands out in that group. And had 6 seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards, had one with over 12. I mean, like 2007, Mitch, 98 receptions, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. How are you not a Pro Bowler with those numbers? He had double-digit touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 100 receptions. That's extremely impressive. So, yeah, Marques Colston. And again, he's one of those, like, so much talent. He just kind of goes by the wayside. But, man, he deserved one. Absolutely, he deserved one. That's a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, just completely deserving of that. And I'm going to stay in the wide receiver realm again.
Yeah, 3 in a row. Let's go.
I got a quarterback in mind, and I think he's going to come back to me. But I'm going to go with Joey Galloway.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, Joey Galloway, another guy that eclipsed 1,000 yards multiple times throughout his career. In fact, another guy that's almost 1,100 or 11,000 yards receiving in his career.
39th in NFL history in receiving yards.
77 touchdowns. Guy was a target monster, a true number one in any offense that he really stepped into. So, just really a guy that it's incredible that he didn't get the recognition league wide to get into a Pro Bowl that he probably deserves. So,
yeah,
I'm going with Joey Galloway.
I like that. 3 seasons with at least 1,000 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. So, yeah, those are big numbers for Joey Galloway, and not a guy we think about a lot anymore because again, there were so many good receivers at that time that he was playing from the mid 90s to I think his career it lasted till 2010. I mean, he was 39 when he played. So, I mean, talking about longevity too.
15 years in the league.
Yeah, I mean, that's extremely impressive. I love that. Joey Galloway. Great pick. All right, back to me.
Yes,
back my third pick. So far, I've got Joe Flacco, Ryan Fitzpatrick, best players to never make a Pro Bowl. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to steal a wide receiver. It's my turn to take a wide receiver, Mitch. And I'm going to go Plaxico Burress.
Yeah.
Plaxico,
he was on my list.
He may have shot himself in the leg, but he was never a Pro Bowl player. I was actually surprised to see this. I mean, there was a moment in his career, and I don't know, maybe you can answer this for me, because I remember feeling as a kid, like when you thought of like the NFL players and like the elite or best tier, there was a time where like Plaxico was like up there in my mind with like some of the best in the league. Like in, just like, oh yeah, he's one of those best guys. It wasn't a long period, but there were some years where I kind of would probably consider him top 8 or top 10-ish. And those are all Pro Bowl players. So a little surprising to see that he actually never ended up making it.
Well, I think he was constantly overshadowed. It's probably when you think about his Steeler days, there was Hines Ward, there was Antoine Randall. Some like you had the consistent guy in Ward, you had the big deep threat in Randall. Those were the guys that were overshadowing him. When he went to New York, man, he had Amani Toomer to compete with. And that's another guy.
It's not like those Giants offenses were super explosive either. They were run first, and
they were run first. They were constantly overshadowed by Brandon Jacobs or Ahmad Bradshaw. You know, like they had these or Tiki Barber even at one point. So they were very much run first, and I think he's one of those guys that was just truly overshadowed. Like, clearly he made some poor decisions there at the end and shot himself in the leg, but.
Shot himself in the foot, metaphorically and literally.
I know, right? Seriously. But when he was at his elite, his very best, he just happened to be overshadowed by guys that did things slightly better than him in that offense.
And obviously he didn't hurt himself. He missed 2 years with violating the personal conduct policy in 2009 and 2010 and could never sort of mount a comeback again. But I mean, look at his third season in 2002, Mitch. He had 1,300 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. And those are like really good numbers, and surprising to put that up and not make a Pro Bowl. So, Plaxico was one for me. I was pretty surprised to see, but I'll put him on here at number 3.
That's a good ad. That's a good ad.
Mitch, my next selection here. This one's a little more for me. Maybe less consensus, but more. I was surprised he didn't make a Pro Bowl because of a couple really good years. But I'm going to go LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount, former Oregon back out of college, right? Spent a lot of time in Tampa and New England. And I want to talk about New England specifically, Mitch, because, I mean, he had over 6,000 career rushing yards, 56 career touchdowns. Like, he had good numbers and a solid career. But he didn't have like a lot of seasons of 1,000 yards or really successful. He had 2 seasons total, and one was his rookie year where he eclipsed 1,000 yards. But in 2016, Mitch, he had 299 carries for 1,100 yards and 18 touchdowns to lead the league. 18 touchdowns. You see a number like that, I was just kind of surprised that he didn't make the Pro Bowl that season for that sort of output for a really good Patriots team that I'm pretty sure, 2016, did they win it that year or the next year? I don't remember, but I think they won it. That was the Atlanta year. So, I mean, Super Bowl champions, it's like, I was surprised he didn't make it. And couldn't stay consistent, but had some good seasons. I'll throw LeGarrette Blount out there.
I like that. I like that pick a lot. The 18 touchdowns, I think, was right about the time that we really started to realize who were goal line eaters. They were just like Mike Gillislee was that for a year.
Justice Hill.
The
Bengals did that. Yep.
They put up these gaudy touchdown numbers, and you're like, well, it's because they're getting their majority of their attempts from the 10-yard line in. So, I think that he was unfortunately a product of that. But I love that pick still, though, because 18 touchdowns. I mean, he was a fantasy darling. I remember that year, fantasy football. You played him in your flex just for touchdown volume. That's all you played him for. You knew he wasn't going to get you yards. He was going to get the touchdowns. So great pick there, Dallin. Look, my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with a guy that I really like. Me being a defensive minded guy, I have to go with this guy. And quite honestly, I was honestly surprised that he didn't make a Pro Bowl at least once in his career. I'm going to go Bruce Irvin.
Oh, great pick.
Bruce Irvin. He was part of that. He was part of that really legendary Seattle defense when the Legion of Boom was there. A great edge rusher, linebacker, hybrid type guy. Just stayed home and was exceptionally good at what he did. I think that he is also one of those guys, though, that was a product of knowing his role and doing his job. And so he didn't really step out of what he was asked to do a whole lot. And that hurt him in Pro Bowl voting because sometimes the best players, man, we talked about Darius Leonard not winning Defensive Player of the Year like setting almost record-setting number tackles in the season because he just did what he was asked to do. Sorry, Shaq Leonard now. I said Darius, I meant Shaq Leonard. That, you know, the numbers weren't really there for him despite him being one of the best at his position. So I'm going to go Bruce Irvin.
Yeah, I like that. And, you know, I think you bring up a good point there, you know, probably just overshadowed in a lot of ways by all the Pro Bowlers on that roster. And, you know, he never had more than 8.5 sacks in a season. So he didn't have like one season where he really put up gaudy numbers. But, you know, you almost wonder, like, in a different situation, you know, he was good enough to be a Pro Bowl player, right? But he just ended up being a supersized role player to like the best degree that you could. And so he probably misses out on a Pro Bowl because of it. But I love that pick. Great pick.
Yeah. I mean,
okay. One more left for both of us.
Oh boy. Crap. I don't even know what to do anymore. No, I'm not going to go quarterback here. I wanted to take Chad Pennington. Let's put it that way. Wanted to take Chad Pennington. But really, he didn't have any standout years other than his 22-6 touchdown interception ratio season. But he played through a lot of injury. That will definitely damper your spot to be in be in a Pro Bowl consideration. I'm going to go Brandon Jacobs, though.
Okay.
The running back for the New York Giants. He was really, when you look at his numbers, one of the best running backs in the history of the New York Giants. One of the best running backs of all time. I mean, and bruising. He had a Pro Bowl worthy year in 2008 where it was 1,089 yards, 15 touchdowns. This guy was just unstoppable at his size and his speed and his power. Unfortunately, he was a split back most of the time, right? He split a lot of carries with Ahmad Bradshaw.
Yeah.
And I think in actually that 2008 season, he would have been in consideration for it, but he's playing in the Super Bowl. So, Brandon Jacobs is going to get that last pick for me, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. And when you talk about, like, you know, this guy had a season where he definitely could have or should have been a Pro Bowl player. I think you could point at that 2008 season for Jacobs and say, yeah, 15 touchdowns, 1,000 rushing yards, even with 219 carries, definitely could have been a Pro Bowl player. So I like that. It's a good pick.
Thank you.
It's a good pick. All right, I got my final one up, Mitch, and he's still here, and I feel like he has to be included onto this list if we're going to do this. So I'm going to go with a guy that many of us may not even know. Ken Riley is the final pick for me.
Yep. In this draft. Yep. Damn it. He was there.
Cornerback, played I'm trying to count all of his career, 14-15 season with the Cincinnati Bengals. Mitch, he is a Hall of Fame player who never made the Pro Bowl. How does that happen? How do you go for he played from 1969 to 1983. He was first team All-Pro his final season at 36 years old in 1983. And despite all that and going on to be a Hall of Fame player, he never made a Pro Bowl. What an extreme oversight by the NFL for getting this guy and not getting him in the Pro Bowl for his entire 14-year career. But obviously being good enough to be a Hall of Fame player. He had 65 interceptions in his career, including 9 interceptions in 1976. What are we doing? He had 9 picks in 76. How the hell did he not make a Pro Bowl? I don't understand what happened. I don't know what was happening back in the 70s and 80s, but they just missed on this guy. It's incredible. It's just one of those quirky things. Made the Hall of Fame, made an All-Pro, never made a Pro Bowl. That's Ken Riley. So we'd be remiss if we didn't include him on here. So he's got to be a number 5 for me.
So he was on my list, and I almost stayed on Brandon, took him. I was like,
it is the Mitch pick. It is the Mitch pick to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Just take the really old, obscured guy. A fun fact about Ken Riley, because I did go ahead and look at him. He didn't make first team All-Pro until his very last season at age 36. Like, that is incredible. And when he had 8 interceptions at age 36, I mean, this guy was incredible. He was incredible. I mean, it's a pick I was thinking about taking, and I'm glad he got taken in any sort of capacity. Because damn it, Ken Riley was vastly underrated throughout his career. So,
yeah, no, I thought that was nuts. This was somebody I was not familiar with, honestly, before this. And then doing my digging and realizing, wow, this guy made the Hall of Fame and not a Pro Bowl. That's just crazy. So that was fun. Best player, NFL player should never make a Pro Bowl. Mitch, let's run through our lists one more time for the folks. You want to start?
Yeah, if I got it written down. I don't think I got it written down.
It's in the note.
There it is. So I got Julian Edelman, Marcus Colston, Joey Galloway, Bruce Irvin, and then Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah, and I have Joe Flacco, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Plaxico Burress, LeGarrette Blount, and Ken Riley. Best players to never make a Pro Bowl. If you're watching this live tonight on Twitter and YouTube, let us know your thoughts on the list. I would a better list. Maybe was there somebody we didn't mention that you think deserves a mention? Or if you're listening to this in the future on the podcast feed, you can let us know on our socials. Or send us a voice message on Anchor. Let us know your thoughts here. Mitch, a couple names of people that maybe you considered but didn't make the list. The big one for me, the one I was debating at the end, was Carlos Dansby. The linebacker had a really good career, long career, good numbers, but just linebacker just got lost in the mix. But definitely deserving, in my opinion. And then Ryan Longwell, the kicker, the longtime kicker for the Vikings, right? Had great numbers, but never made a Pro Bowl. I almost threw a little special teams one in there, so I was thinking about that one. Any other names that you were considering here?
Jim Plunkett.
Oh yeah,
Jim Plunkett never made a Pro Bowl. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Back when they played the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl. So the fact that he wasn't in there, or the fact that he never made a Pro Bowl. Fascinating to me. Was definitely on my list. Longwell and Dansby were certainly on my list as well. Dansby was interesting though. I had read a stat that like he still is like top 3 all time in run stopping tackles. Wow. Since he entered the league, like he's still like top 3 all time since he entered the league. So maybe he should have been drafted here. Like, he was an exceptionally good linebacker.
Yeah, for sure.
But played on some really bad teams. So, I mean, those Arizona Cardinal teams were not good when he was there. So,
yeah. And what we see with the Pro Bowl, right, because it's obviously relying on position, you only get so many options at your position, where if you play in an era that's really deep and strong at that position, like quarterbacks, you're just going to miss out, like a Joe Flacco. You're just not going to get a shot where other guys in different eras would have had you had different competition. And sometimes the cards play like that for you, and hate to see it. But this was fun. I love this list, this idea. Hopefully we get to do this again with like NBA and MLB, because I think this could, for all these other sports too, there could be some very interesting lists.
I think we will. I think we'll have to do that. Like we don't have a choice now. We'll have to do that.
Love it.